The Holy Spirit has entered the White House. The Reverend looks at his flock and with a grin on his face starts to read from the book of Revelations that the end will be foreshadowed by a battle. 666 are the numbers of the day, the sign that Antichrist is fighting its last battle in the White House. But the people can only sit and listen to him rave as they wait impatiently for the rapture to take them. And the Reverend, who has no true idea what the rapture entails, other than what the good book tells him, questions his theology. How come they're not flying out of their seats? His eyes, though, are wide as his parishioners stuff the buckets with all their cash because they do not need it in heaven. To add to the anxiety level in the room, enemies on the water were observed on every television and electronic communications device as they were turned around in midstream. Nuclear warheads were being jettisoned over the side of the boat. These films, though, were not taken by satellites, but the images, clear and concise, just appeared, and the director, whoever he might be, showed angles that could not have been filmed without the use of multiple cameras from different positions in and around the ships. But no one present understands the intuitive nature of their vision. And then the babies currently crisscrossing Washington D.C. were observed lying in their cribs, their bassinets, on changing tables, and on blankets lying on the floor. But without a change in tape or editing, the same platforms were suddenly empty and abandoned. The horror on the faces of the caregivers is shown moments, minutes, and even hours later as they walk in and find the babies missing. The sudden scurrying around the house by the one's responsibility for the baby's care, and while some showed shock, others appeared unconcerned. How sad. Anchor people fussing around a desk on the television box while trying to spin the event their way. But producers of the program were busily searching where the footage came from. But even as they tried to stretch the truth, to take it in a direction that would make their point, their words were suddenly being blanked or edited. Those people in the congregation, sitting in the pews and watching the unexpected respite of the present world, laughed and cried joyously as they freely condemned those they believed were going to hell or simply to remain on earth. The Reverend again looks at his flock and wonders why the rapture hadn't taken them yet. He wondered if the good book implied that God wasn't the one to bring them to heaven, but rather it was he that had to supply the cyanide-laced Kool-Aid. And in his mind he surmises that the Jewish people are not the only ones that believe that they are God's chosen and that everyone else is simply disposable. How sad it is that any religion feels they are better than the others are. The man's mind keeps denigrating to his own false beliefs. This isn't fair because we Christians freely gave money to the Jews to keep their Israel established, but for no more the reason than we expected Israel to take a major place in initiating Armageddon, which the Christian community in fact wished they would broker. And bitterness is displayed on the parishioners' faces. We donated our dollars to the Jews so that they can have their fight while we go to heaven. Suddenly, though, the doors to the church fly open by a stiff breeze to get people's attention, and the Reverend is knocked backwards as if he were experiencing a sharp slap. The man of the cloth sits on the floor next to the dais, looking at his parishioners, looking back, but none of them have a hair, a hat, or a scarf out of place. But just as the doors inexplicably open, they suddenly shut. And just as quickly a parishioner makes it to the door, but upon his arrival he finds it will no longer open. The parishioners are now locked up by their faith. The doors to the church would not open. The stained glass windows with scenes of the gospel were dripping red. Those people that were reading Revelations and waiting to be saved were now reading Psalm 23 and praying to be saved. The last picture displayed on the television screen, hanging on the walls, came in the form of dreams of people not present, as it showcased the inside of the New Horizon with time running out on the nuclear weapons. It also showcased the water flowing into the submarine through the torpedo tubes. But these people sitting here in their Sunday best will not be here to see it. Hate does not belong in church.